Good morning, everyone, and welcome to CDE2300 Product Design and Innovation. As week one falls on a national day, we have prepared a pre-recorded introduction about the module, and today I will cover about a summary and the breakdown of this module in a nutshell. So CDE2300 is essentially a studio-driven module that covers both design and engineering, and we've designed the lectures to provide our students with a snapshot of what and how a product development lifecycle can look like from concept to your MVP stage, so the minimum viable product. If you look at the images on the slide, you're seeing real projects from your seniors. So projects such as Hosey and Aries, and in the summary, CDE 2300 is really a hands-on and thinking caps on module that prepares you for a more advanced product development module, such as the CDE 3301, or generally if you are someone who is interested in how a product is conceptualized and prototyped in the real world. So you won't be doing theoretical concepts or calculations on paper. It's really about starting with a messy initial napkin sketches, moving rapidly into hands-on dirty prototyping, and ultimately delivering high fidelity product proposals at the end of the 14 weeks. And the goal of this semester and every semester is to guide students to hit that sweet spot in the middle of our Venn diagram where engineering feasibility, commercial viability, and human desirability intersect to create truly great products. So before we dive into the course expectations, let's take a moment to introduce the teaching team to supporting you this semester. Our team brings together very diverse backgrounds spanning both engineering and design. We have instructors and studio mentors with deep expertise in mechanical systems, electronics, industrial design, and human-centered design practice. So what this means for you is that during weekly studio sessions, you'll receive well-balanced real-world feedback. When you present a physical concept, one mentor might challenge your mechanism tolerances, material feasibility, while another might evaluate your user ergonomics, spatial proportions, or even how it looks, right? But basically, we are here to guide you through every angle of turning an idea into a functional market-ready product. And we have quite a big class this semester. We're expecting around 80 students, and I look forward to meeting everyone in person in the coming weeks. So what should you expect from CDE 2300? Expect a course that is hands-on and highly iterative. We prioritize rapid physical prototyping, structured conceptualization, and cognitive creativity. We want you to merge core engineering principles with sound user experience design, meaning that you'll design products that solve a genuine problem and not just make items that look cool. So now what should you not expect? We will not be focusing on standalone apps or software UI UX development. So this is a physical product design module, and you can do a little bit of UI UX development, but that shouldn't be your priority. So let's take a look at two past student examples to see what kind of outcomes we can expect. So an example of one is Taggy. So Taggy is a flexible sticker style device um, that the team created that is sort of a tracking beacon with functional electronics that help solve item loss anxiety. So it's really a new format for tracking small and important items that we use in our everyday. So you might be thinking, isn't this what an AirTag does? And you're right. So it's actually inspired by an AirTag, but now instead of tracking items that are trackable by AirTags, you can actually expand into different products. So for example, if you're tracking your laptop, for example, or let's say a water bottle, you can just stick Taggy like a piece of sticker onto the bottom of your laptop, the bottom of your mouse, the bottom of your water bottle. So now, if you are trying to track it or look for it, let's say you misplaced it, it's actually possible. Versus, let's say, putting on an AirTag to your laptop might be a bit challenging. Another one that we are looking at as an example is SciTech. So it's really a bike-mounted deployable weather canopy system reimagined for commuting cyclists to eliminate the hassle of putting on rain ponchos in the middle of the ride. So this is essentially a poncho system that was designed for cyclists on the go. And this group, how this group conceptualized this idea was that they identified that, when uh, cyclists or motorists on the go, when it starts to rain, they take out their poncho. They struggle to find where the top and the bottom of the poncho is. Where is the hole that they put their head into? Where does their arms go? And they have identified that this is a frustration that they could solve by streamlining the process of sheltering on the go. And therefore, they came up with this solution of a reusable canopy system for cyclists to use to easily unfold, to easily fold whenever they need to deploy this. So a core concept that we want to establish early on is that innovation is not invention. You do not need to invent a new law of physics or discover a groundbreaking scientific principle to succeed in this class, right? Innovation is creating a fundamental new process or technology that has not existed before. So example, inventing the first working laser is considered innovation and sorry, is considered invention. So innovation, on the other hand, is applying that technology to create new user value for the user. So an example is taking this laser and using it to scan groceries at a checkout counter. In the past, before the laser was invented, what the store clerks had to do was to key in the barcode of every single item manually in order to get the receipt or the cost for every single customer. And this was a very tedious and manual process that a laser solves. So my point is that you don't need a PhD in physics to be an innovator in CDE 2300. You just need a PhD in understanding your users' frustrations. Another example of how successful innovations can come from reconfiguring already existing technology is the classic Heinz ketchup bottle. So for decades, glass bottles that had saucers in them were very iconic, but they were very deeply frustrating. So the last 15% of your sauce bottle, was always trapped. And getting the sauce out of a glass bottle was an incredibly frustrating experience. So I'm sure every one of you have experienced this before. You try to shake your ketchup or your mayonnaise out from the bottle, and a lot of it comes out at the same time, right? So how this design driven innovation works is really just switching the glass bottle to a squeezable plastic and adding a simple silicone valve at the end. This simple physical change drastically improved the user satisfaction and also the consumption of the sauce because Heinz understood their customers and they understood that to the user the glass bottle it felt nice and iconic, yes, but it was more frustrating to get the sauce out of the bottle, and it was more desirable for the user to control the flow of the sauce. So another very successful case of a design-driven innovation is actually Grab. So do you imagine a time when you had to wait for the taxi by the side of the road and you get anxiety of how much the ride will cost, when is the driver coming? So Grab understood this user frustration and challenged the norm, and they actually emerged as a new norm of what we consider a ride-hailing service. So now when we say I'm going to take a taxi, you're going to immediately assume someone's going to open a Grab or Gojek, or Tada to order a ride. You're not going to think that this person is going to stand at the side of the road and wave his hand trying to flag down a taxi. So this module is really about identifying this kind of creative innovation, not invention. And I'm personally looking forward to all the innovative products that we will see being developed this semester. So on to the exciting part. Your overarching project brief for this semester is going to be simple yet broad. It is going to be to design something that solves a problem. And you're going to work in groups of 4 to 5 or maybe 6 to identify and frame a problem. We actually modeled this project scope after the prestigious James Dyson Award, where top student projects have the opportunity to compete nationally and internationally for a significant prize money. So more details on this will actually be coming in the following weeks, but this brief is really something that evolves and changes from weeks 1 to 6. So don't worry about it for now. We will really guide you through this process. So some common problem domains that you can start to think about and explore is inclusive and accessible living, enhancing everyday living, and home and urban environments. So the goal here is really to identify a clear problem and solve it with a tangible action. So on to the next part, which is the course overview. And this is the 14-week roadmap for this semester. So everyone is familiar with the milestones, right? The first half of the course will cover the identification and framing of your problem, of your selected problem, with a midterm review consolidating everything that we have covered from week 1 to 6. The second half focuses on product prototyping and validation, with a final presentation covering materials from weeks 1 to 13. So as for how you'll be assessed, an individual assessment will make up 30% of your grade, with continuous assignments between weeks 2 to 7 worth about 4% each, coming up to a 16% total. There is a peer review worth 4%, as well as a design reflection worth 8%. And this design reflection is only due after your final presentation. There is also a small 2% class participation. And as for the group component, it is worth 70% of your grade, and it will consist of a midterm presentation that is in a slide format, as well as a final presentation that is in a physical poster, prototype, and slides format. There will be external judges invited down for this final presentation as part of our grading criteria. And we have decided to give bonus marks for groups who have decided to upload their project onto the James Dyson Award website. More details on this will be released closer to the final submission. So to wrap up this video, right, here are really my top tips on scoring well for CDE 2300. Firstly, document everything as you go. Take photos of every rough mockup, log everything on why you designed a certain 3D print, why did a certain design fail, and secondly is really to trust the iterative process that we have prepared for you. So in summary, the process for CDE 2300 roughly goes something like this. You discover a problem or pain point, and you learn to frame that problem to identify a root cause. Next, you think of creative ways to solve this root cause by ideating, and then you prototype to validate your idea. Next, you try to test and validate the effectiveness of your idea, and then you refine the prototype after testing it. So don't worry if this sounds very foreign. We will be sure to guide you through this process as we go through weeks 1 to 14. As for the next steps for week 2, be sure to access the lecture slides published on Canvas prior to class and start thinking about some preliminary group statements that you might be passionate about solving. So for week 2, we'll also be doing group formations of perhaps groups of 5. So if you are unable to attend the class in week 2, be sure to let us know in advance so we can ensure that everyone has a group from week 3 onwards. And also be sure to join our course Telegram channel via the link on Canvas, or scanning the QR code on the bottom right will also lead you to the Telegram channel. There is also an Instagram page that you can join or follow. So it's on the bottom right as well. There you can see the history of this course and module, as well as getting important updates along the way. And lastly, welcome to CDE2300, and I look forward to seeing your project ideas in studio.